You know that feeling when you set a goal with complete confidence that this time will be different? Day 1, you're unstoppable. Day 7, you're negotiating with yourself about why tomorrow is a better day to start. Day 14. What goal? Here's what nobody tells you about those 38% of people who set resolutions. Only 9% actually stick with them through February. I've been there, and so have millions of others drowning in the motivation graveyard. But here's what nobody tells you. Motivation is basically the flaky friend of personal development. The real secret isn't waiting to feel inspired. It's learning to force yourself through identity-based action and micro-wins when inspiration has left the building. And the data behind why this approach works will shock you. The brutal truth about 2025 goal statistics. Let's look at what actually happens when people set goals. Research shows that 38% of adults make resolutions, but only 9% actually keep them past February. By February, most enthusiastic resolutions quietly collapse under mounting excuses. The timeline is painfully predictable, and the research doesn't lie. You think you're different this year, right? You've got a better plan, stronger willpower, more motivation than last time. The same thought crossed the minds of every other person who's currently staring at their abandoned meal prep containers and unopened self-help books. The data doesn't care about your intentions, your vision board, or how many productivity YouTube videos you watched while avoiding actual work. Statistics treat everyone equally, and they're telling us that good intentions are about as reliable as weather forecasts. Here's what makes it worse in our current reality. 39% of adults set fitness resolutions and 33% set diet goals, yet most of these ambitious plans crumble within weeks. Social media turns this failure into a public spectacle. Instagram stories showcase day 1 energy with perfectly arranged workout gear and color-coded planners. LinkedIn posts announce ambitious career pivots with corporate buzzword salads. TikTok videos promise transformation in 30 days or less. The comparison game runs 24/7, and every success story you scroll past makes your own struggle feel more personal, more shameful, more proof that something's wrong with you specifically. The instant gratification culture makes everything worse. We expect results at download speeds, but change happens at gardening pace. Apps promise to revolutionize your life, but can't force you to open them after the novelty wears off. Streaming services offer infinite entertainment options that feel more rewarding than the slow, boring work of actual improvement. Online shopping delivers dopamine hits faster than exercise delivers endorphins. The modern world is designed to make giving up feel logical and starting over feel hopeful. Traditional goal-setting advice falls apart in our hyper-connected reality. Write down your goals, they say, as if notebooks have magical powers. Visualize success, they promise, while your brain confuses imagination with achievement. Break it into smaller steps, they suggest, without explaining why. Smaller still feels overwhelming when you're already overwhelmed. Set deadlines, they insist, while life laughs and throws unexpected curveballs at your carefully planned timeline. The advice assumes you live in a bubble where motivation stays constant, distractions don't exist, and willpower never gets tested by Netflix notifications. Motivation behaves like every viral trend you've ever witnessed. Remember when everyone was doing that ice bucket challenge? Lasted about 6 weeks before people moved on to the next thing. Motivation follows the same pattern. It spreads fast, burns bright, gets shared everywhere, then disappears when something shinier comes along. It's the avocado toast of personal development, popular for a moment, but not substantial enough to sustain you long term. People chase motivational intent like they're hunting for the perfect playlist that will finally make them want to exercise, but no song makes burpees enjoyable. Your brain has been hijacked by the same systems that make social media addictive. Every motivational quote gives you a tiny hit of satisfaction without requiring actual effort. Planning feels productive even when no action follows. Buying the gear creates excitement without building the habit. Talking about your goals triggers the same reward pathways as achieving them, which is why announcing intentions often reduces the likelihood of follow-through. Your neural wiring mistakes preparation for progress and gives you credit for work you haven't done yet. The landscape is littered with digital graveyards of good intentions. meditation apps downloaded during stressful moments, then forgotten when stress passes. Workout subscriptions that seemed essential during late-night infomercial binges. Language learning programs started with dreams of fluency, abandoned when conjugating verbs felt harder than watching subtitled movies. Budgeting software purchased during financial panic attacks ignored when impulse purchases called louder than spreadsheet cells. The subscription economy profits from our optimistic future selves, while our present selves hit snooze and order takeout. Fitness trackers sit in drawers counting nothing but dust. Meal prep containers stack unused while delivery apps get daily workouts. Productivity planners remain pristine while to-do lists migrate between random sticky notes. Online courses pile up in digital libraries like expensive bookmarks. The gap between purchase and practice grows wider each year as we mistake buying solutions for implementing them. Successful people operate from completely different assumptions. While everyone else waits for motivation to strike, they've learned to move without it. While others plan perfect conditions, they work with messy reality. While most people treat goals like wishes, they treat them like non-negotiable appointments with themselves. They don't rely on feeling ready because they know readiness is a luxury that rarely arrives on schedule. The uncomfortable truth is that motivation actively works against achievement. It creates dependency on external conditions that you can't control. It makes you believe that inspiration is required for action, when action often creates inspiration. It tricks you into thinking that wanting something badly enough will somehow make doing it easier when difficulty remains constant, regardless of desire level. It sets up an expectation that change should feel good, when most meaningful change feels challenging, awkward, and uncomfortable for much longer than anyone admits. Most people approach their goals with the energy of a sugar rush, intense at first, then crashing predictably. They sprint when they should be training for a marathon. They go all in when they should be going consistently. They rely on peak states when they should be building systems that work during average Tuesday afternoons, when nothing feels inspiring and everything feels hard. Here's what the successful minority figured out that everyone else keeps missing. Motivation isn't the fuel for achievement, it's actually the enemy. It makes you dependent on feelings that fluctuate with weather, sleep quality, and how many likes your last post received. But there's something deeper happening here, something most people never discover about why their own minds work against them, why your brain sabotages you every single time. Your brain is running a sophisticated operation against your goals, and it's time to understand exactly how this works. Every single day, your mind pulls off elaborate schemes that steal your progress while convincing you it's protecting you. The psychological trap isn't obvious because it feels helpful, feels logical, feels like self-care, when really it's sabotage disguised as common sense. Understanding this hidden pattern changes everything about how you approach achievement. Meet Sarah and Mike, two people who decided to start running in January. Sarah approached it like most people do. She bought premium running shoes, downloaded 3 different fitness apps, created detailed training schedules, and posted about her commitment on social media. She researched nutrition plans, watched YouTube videos about proper form, and even bought one of those fancy GPS watches that tracks everything except her actual motivation. For 2 weeks, Sarah felt amazing about her running journey. She loved planning her routes, comparing gear options, and imagining herself crossing finish lines. Then reality hit. Running felt hard, her legs hurt, the weather wasn't perfect, and suddenly all that planning felt more satisfying than the actual sweating. Mike took a different approach. He put on whatever shoes he owned, walked outside, and started moving. No apps, no plans, no announcements. When his brain offered 50 reasons why today wasn't ideal for running, he ignored the negotiations and moved anyway. When running felt uncomfortable, he kept going. When motivation disappeared, he showed up regardless. 6 months later, Sarah was still researching the perfect running plan, while Mike was finishing his first 10K. Your brain operates with programming designed for survival in a world that no longer exists. Evolution wired you for immediate comfort because your ancestors faced real physical threats. When a saber-toothed tiger appeared, hesitation meant death. So your brain learned to prioritize immediate safety over long-term planning. Fast forward to today, and that same wiring treats deadlines like predators, Netflix like shelter, and hard work like unnecessary danger. Your caveman brain experiences the gym as potential threat because physical discomfort triggers ancient alarm systems that scream, "Stop this immediately and find safety." The modern world weaponizes this programming against you. Food delivery apps exploit your preference for immediate gratification. Social media platforms trigger dopamine responses that make scrolling feel more rewarding than productive work. Streaming services offer instant entertainment that requires zero effort, while your goals demand sustained discomfort. Your brain compares these options and consistently votes for immediate pleasure, because it doesn't understand that comfort today creates problems tomorrow. It's like having a security guard who's extremely good at protecting you from imaginary threats while ignoring real ones. Here's where motivation becomes fleeting rather than helpful. Your brain rewards you for planning and visualizing goals, which actually reduces the likelihood you'll achieve them. When you spend time creating vision boards or detailed action plans, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that gets released when you actually accomplish something. This tricks your nervous system into thinking you've already made progress, so the motivation to do actual work decreases. You get the reward without earning it, which is why planning often feels more satisfying than executing. Your brain literally confuses thinking about success with achieving success. Research shows that over half of people abandon their resolutions by February because motivation operates like a mood, not a strategy. Every motivational quote you save, every vision board you create, every time you tell someone about your ambitious plans, you're feeding this system that works against achievement. The dopamine hit from consuming inspirational content gives you a temporary high that substitutes for real progress. Your brain experiences reading, "You've got this," as equivalent to actually doing the work. Vision boards become expensive photo collections that make you feel accomplished while you accomplish nothing. Watch how your brain negotiates you out of hard work, and you'll recognize the pattern immediately. Tuesday morning arrives, and you plan to exercise, but your internal dialogue sounds like a used car salesman. You worked late yesterday, you deserve rest. The weather looks questionable. You don't have the right protein powder. Tomorrow would be better because you'll have more time. You should wait until you feel more motivated. Maybe this weekend when you're less stressed. Your brain generates creative excuses faster than Netflix generates content recommendations, and each excuse sounds completely reasonable in the moment. The goal gradient effect reveals another layer of mental sabotage. Research shows that effort increases as goals get closer, but your brain uses this knowledge against you. When a deadline approaches, your mind creates artificial urgency that makes starting feel overwhelming. Instead of taking small actions early, your brain convinces you to wait until pressure builds, because it knows you'll work harder under stress. This creates a cycle where you procrastinate until panic forces action, then feel stressed and exhausted, which reinforces the belief that working toward goals feels terrible. Your brain's favorite trick involves convincing you that tomorrow will be different. Tonight you feel motivated to wake up early, exercise, eat well, and be productive. Your future self seems capable, disciplined, and ready for challenges. But when tomorrow becomes today, your brain presents you with the same comfort versus effort choice, and suddenly your motivated future self feels like a stranger. This pattern repeats endlessly because your brain experiences planning as separate from executing and assumes that motivation will magically appear when needed. Decision fatigue plays accomplice to these mental crimes. Your brain makes thousands of micro-choices daily, and each decision depletes your mental resources. By afternoon, you're running on cognitive fumes, which makes choosing hard work over easy distraction nearly impossible. Your brain conserves energy by defaulting to familiar, comfortable options, which is why willpower fails predictably as the day progresses. This explains why most people can stick to morning routines, but struggle with evening commitments. Here's the crucial insight that changes everything. Successful people don't have better brains or stronger willpower. They've learned to work with their psychological wiring instead of fighting against it. They understand that motivation is unreliable, dopamine rewards planning more than doing, and comfort always feels more appealing than challenge. Instead of waiting for different feelings, they create systems that bypass feelings entirely. Self-sabotage isn't a character flaw or personal weakness, it's a predictable response to predictable triggers. Once you understand the psychological mechanisms behind goal abandonment, you can design strategies that account for human nature instead of ignoring it. Your brain will always prefer Netflix to hard work, but knowing this allows you to plan accordingly and create systems that make progress inevitable regardless of how you feel. But there's something even more powerful than understanding why your brain works against you. The identity shift that changes everything. There's a mental shift that flips everything upside down and makes willpower irrelevant. But most people never discover it because they're asking the wrong question entirely. Instead of fighting against your feelings or waiting for motivation to rescue you, there's a simple approach that bypasses your emotional brain completely and makes consistent action feel automatic. This isn't about becoming a different person. It's about thinking like the person you want to be before you actually become them. Most people approach goals backwards and wonder why they keep failing. They focus on what they want to do instead of who they want to be. They say things like, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to save $5,000, or I want to start a business. But these action-based goals depend entirely on how you feel in any given moment. When you feel motivated, you take action. When you don't feel motivated, you don't. Your behavior becomes a slave to your emotions, which change faster than weather patterns in spring. Identity-based goals work differently because they start with becoming the type of person who would naturally do those things. Here's how the shift works in practice. Instead of saying, I want to work out, you ask, what would a fit person do right now? Instead of, I should probably study, you think, what would someone serious about their career do in this moment? Instead of, I need to save money, you consider, how would a financially responsible person handle this purchase decision? The difference might seem small, but it changes everything about how your brain processes choices. Let me tell you about Marcus, who struggled with the same goal for 3 years running. He wanted to wake up early and exercise before work, but every morning felt like negotiating with a hostage taker. His alarm would go off and his brain would immediately start the daily court case. You stayed up late last night, you need more sleep. It's cold outside and your bed is warm. You can exercise after work when you have more energy. Tomorrow would be better because you'll go to bed earlier tonight. Marcus tried every motivation trick in the book. Inspirational alarm sounds, workout buddy, accountability apps, even sleeping in his gym clothes. Nothing worked because he was fighting his feelings instead of changing his identity. Everything changed when Marcus started asking one simple question each morning. Instead of debating whether he felt like exercising, he asked, what would the disciplined version of me do right now? This question bypassed all the emotional negotiation because the answer was obvious. The disciplined version wouldn't hit snooze, wouldn't make excuses, wouldn't wait for perfect conditions. The disciplined version would get up, put on shoes, and start moving regardless of how tired, cold, or unmotivated he felt. Within 2 months, Marcus was consistently exercising before work, not because he felt more motivated, but because he was acting from identity instead of emotion. Watch how this plays out during a typical day, and you'll see the difference immediately. Tuesday afternoon arrives and you're supposed to work on an important project, but Netflix is calling your name. The feeling-based decision sounds like this. I don't really feel like working right now. I had a long day and I deserve to relax. I'll work on it tomorrow when I'm more focused. I do better work when I'm in the right mood anyway. The identity-based decision asks, what would someone serious about their success do right now? And the answer doesn't depend on how you feel. Your brain at 6 in the morning when the alarm goes off will always vote for more sleep. But the disciplined version of you doesn't negotiate with comfort. Your brain at 8 at night will always prefer scrolling social media over reading, but the growth-minded version of you chooses learning over entertainment. Your brain facing a difficult conversation will always suggest avoiding conflict, but the confident version of you addresses problems directly. Identity-based decisions remove the emotional component entirely because you're not asking how you feel, you're asking who you are. This approach works even when you're exhausted, stressed, overwhelmed, or completely checked out mentally, because identity doesn't fluctuate with circumstances. You might feel terrible, but the responsible version of you still pays bills on time. You might feel antisocial, but the caring version of you still shows up for friends. You might feel lazy, but the professional version of you still meets deadlines. Identity provides consistency that emotions can't match, because it operates independently of your current state. Most people wait to become disciplined instead of acting disciplined first, and this backwards thinking keeps them stuck forever. They believe they need to feel motivated before taking action, need to feel confident before speaking up, need to feel organized before decluttering, need to feel energetic before exercising. But confidence comes from acting confidently. Organization comes from organizing. Discipline comes from doing disciplined things. Even when you don't feel disciplined yet, you don't wait to become the person, you act like the person first. The fitness version doesn't skip workouts because of weather. The entrepreneurial version doesn't make excuses about not having enough time. The organized version doesn't leave dishes in the sink overnight. The studious version doesn't scroll social media during designated learning time. The financially smart version doesn't buy things they can't afford just because they want them. Each identity comes with automatic behaviors that don't require motivation or willpower. Here's what makes this so powerful compared to everything else you've tried. When you operate from identity, your brain stops generating excuses because the decision is already made. There's no internal debate about whether to exercise because fit people exercise. There's no negotiation about whether to save money because financially responsible people live below their means. There's no discussion about whether to study because serious students prioritize learning over entertainment. The identity eliminates choice, which eliminates the mental energy required to choose correctly every single time. This foundation makes every other technique more effective because you're not fighting against yourself anymore. You're not using willpower to force actions that contradict who you think you are. Instead, you're aligning your actions with your chosen identity, which feels natural rather than forced. When someone asks how you stay so consistent, the answer becomes simple. You're not trying to be consistent, you're just being yourself. Identity drives behavior automatically, which means willpower becomes irrelevant for maintaining progress. The person you decide to be today determines what you do today, and what you do today shapes who you become tomorrow. This creates an upward spiral where identity and actions reinforce each other until discipline stops feeling like discipline and starts feeling like personality. But knowing who you want to be is only half the battle, because there's still that moment when you think about taking action and your brain immediately starts generating technique that kills procrastination. There's a 6-second window between thinking about doing something and your brain talking you out of it. And if you miss that window, your excuses become more creative than Hollywood screenwriters. Your brain operates like a professional excuse factory, working overtime to keep you comfortable. And the longer you give it to operate, the more elaborate the reasons become for why now isn't the right time. But there's a simple countdown that hijacks this entire system and forces action before your mind can manufacture reasons to quit. The neuroscience behind hesitation reveals why waiting to act guarantees failure. Your brain seeks comfort above everything else and views any change or challenge as potential danger. When you think about doing something difficult, your mind immediately starts generating protective excuses. You don't have enough time right now. You should wait until you're more prepared. Tomorrow would be better. You need to research this more first. These aren't character flaws. They're evolutionary features designed to keep you safe from threats that no longer exist. Your brain can't distinguish between real dangers and the mild discomfort of exercise, difficult conversations, or productive work. The 5-second rule works by counting backwards from 5 to 1, then immediately taking action before your brain can interfere. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then move. The countdown interrupts your mind's excuse-generating process, because counting backwards requires just enough mental effort to short-circuit the automatic resistance patterns. Forward counting feels too much like planning, which gives your brain time to create objections. Backward counting feels more like a launch sequence, which primes your body for immediate action rather than extended deliberation. Picture this scenario. Your alarm goes off at 6 in the morning and your brain immediately starts the daily negotiation. You had a long day yesterday. You deserve more sleep. It's cold outside, your bed is warm. You don't have the right workout clothes ready. You can exercise after work when you're more awake. But if you count backwards, the moment you hear the alarm 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then swing your legs out of bed, your brain doesn't get the chance to present its case for staying horizontal. The action happens before the resistance can organize itself. The technique works for every type of procrastination because hesitation patterns are universal. Standing outside someone's office knowing you need to have a difficult conversation, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then knock. Staring at your phone, knowing you should call your parents, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then dial. Looking at the pile of dishes, knowing you should clean the kitchen, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start washing. Sitting with your laptop knowing you should work on that important project, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then open the document. The countdown bypasses the emotional negotiation entirely. Here's what makes the timing so crucial. Research shows that the longer you wait to act, the more elaborate your excuses become. Second 1, your brain whispers, maybe later. Second 10, it suggests, tomorrow would be better. Second 30, it explains, you're not really prepared for this. Minute 1, it creates detailed reasons why this task isn't as important as other things. Minute 5, it builds compelling arguments for why attempting this would actually be counterproductive. Your brain becomes more creative with delays, the more time you give it to work. The countdown stops these negotiations cold because action interrupts thinking. Your brain can't generate excuses while your body is already moving. It can't debate the merits of exercise while you're putting on shoes. It can't argue against making that phone call while you're already dialing. Physical action overrides mental resistance because your nervous system prioritizes what's happening now over what might happen later. This is why the technique works better than traditional motivation methods that depend on feeling ready first. Traditional motivation approaches fail because they require you to feel different for acting different. You're supposed to get inspired, then take action. Feel confident, then speak up. Feel energetic, then exercise. Feel organized, then clean. But the 5-second rule flips this completely. You take action first, which creates momentum, which generates the feelings you were waiting for. Action produces motivation, not the other way around, and the countdown proves this instantly every single time you use it. Apply this technique to your specific resistance points throughout the day and watch how it changes your relationship with difficult tasks. Resistance point, getting out of bed, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, feet on floor. Resistance point, starting work projects, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, open the file. Resistance point, making healthy food choices, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, grab the apple instead of chips. Resistance point, initiating difficult conversations, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, speak the first sentence. Resistance point, beginning exercise, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, put on shoes. Each countdown becomes a forcing mechanism that eliminates the gap between intention and action. The beauty of this approach lies in its simplicity and universality. You don't need apps, planners, accountability partners, or perfect conditions. You don't need to feel motivated, inspired, or ready. You just need to count backwards and move. The technique works, whether you're tired, energetic, stressed, relaxed, busy, or free, because it doesn't depend on your emotional state. It's a forcing mechanism that operates independently of how you feel, which makes it infinitely more reliable than waiting for the right mood. Here's the payoff that changes everything about how you approach goals. Action creates motivation, not the other way around, and this technique proves it instantly every time you use it. You don't wait to feel like exercising, then exercise. You exercise, then feel like exercising more. You don't wait to feel like working, then work. You work, then feel more engaged with the project. The 5-second rule demonstrates that motivation follows action, which means you control motivation by controlling action, and you control action by counting backwards, then moving before your brain can stop you. But even with this countdown technique, there's still something deeper happening that most people never recognize. Your brain is running programming that actively works against your success, and until you understand this biological glitch, you'll keep making choices that feel good in the moment but steal from your future. Rewiring your pain and pleasure system. This biological programming creates a fundamental mismatch between what your brain wants and what your goals require. Every time you pick the easy option over the growth option, you're following survival instincts designed for a world where immediate threats required immediate responses. But today, the real threat isn't the saber-toothed tiger outside your cave, it's the comfortable choices that slowly steal your potential while making you feel safe and satisfied. Modern life has flipped the survival equation completely. Your ancestors faced real physical dangers where comfort meant safety and discomfort meant potential death. Today, the opposite is true. Comfort is the danger and discomfort is the path to everything you want. But your brain hasn't received the software update. It still treats the mild discomfort of exercise like physical threat, the awkwardness of difficult conversations like social exile, and the mental strain of learning like unnecessary risk. Meanwhile, it treats scrolling social media like gathering valuable information, binge-watching series like necessary rest, and avoiding challenges like smart self-preservation. Watch how this plays out in your daily choices, and you'll see the pattern immediately. Tuesday, evening arrives, and you have two options. Option A, work on that important project that could advance your career. Option B, watch another episode of that show everyone's talking about. Your brain weighs these options through survival programming. Working feels like effort, stress, potential failure, and uncertain outcomes. Watching feels like relaxation, safety, predictable entertainment, and guaranteed pleasure. The ancient algorithm votes for guaranteed comfort over uncertain growth every single time. You choose Netflix and feel good about it until 3 months later when you're still in the same job, wondering why nothing changes. The hidden pain of comfort reveals itself slowly, which is why most people never connect their comfortable choices to their unfulfilled potential. Choosing the couch over the gym feels pleasant in the moment, but creates a gradual decline in energy, confidence, and health that accumulates over months. Avoiding difficult conversations feels peaceful temporarily, but builds resentment, anxiety, and relationship problems that compound over time. Postponing skill development feels relaxing today, but creates career stagnation and financial stress that grows quietly in the background. The pain arrives on a delay, which makes it nearly impossible to trace back to the comfortable choices that created it. Meanwhile, the hidden pleasure of discomfort gets overlooked because it also operates on a delay. The discomfort of exercise feels immediate, but the confidence, energy, and strength it creates build gradually. The awkwardness of honest conversations feels sharp in the moment, but the deeper connections and resolved conflicts emerge over weeks. The mental strain of learning new skills feels overwhelming initially, but the expanded opportunities and increased capabilities develop slowly. You experience the discomfort now, but receive the rewards later, which makes your brain classify these activities as net negative, even though they're actually net positive. Here's where you can hack the system by mentally reframing what feels painful and what feels pleasurable. Instead of thinking about exercise as punishment, think about avoiding exercise as stealing energy from your future self. Instead of viewing studying as boring, think about staying ignorant as expensive and limiting. Instead of seeing difficult conversations as uncomfortable, think about avoiding them as choosing fake harmony over real connection. The activities don't change, but your brain's interpretation of them completely shifts when you focus on different aspects of the same experience. Take something as simple as choosing between healthy food and junk food. Your brain automatically labels the salad as deprivation and the pizza as reward. But you can flip this completely. The salad becomes fuel for energy, mental clarity, and long-term health, while the pizza becomes bloating, sluggishness, and regret, disguised as temporary taste satisfaction. Neither interpretation is wrong, they're just different ways of processing the same choice. When you consistently frame healthy choices as self-care and unhealthy choices as self-sabotage, your brain starts craving what's actually good for you. Apply this reframing technique to your biggest goal challenges and watch how it changes your motivation entirely. Exercise stops being something you have to do and becomes something you get to do for your physical and mental well-being. Studying transforms from boring obligation into valuable investment in your future earning potential. Waking up early shifts from daily torture into precious time for personal growth before the world demands your attention. Difficult conversations change from awkward confrontations into opportunities for deeper understanding and stronger relationships. The key is making hard things feel rewarding and easy things feel costly right in the moment of choice. Before exercising, remind yourself that you're investing in strength, confidence, and longevity. Before studying, tell yourself you're building skills that will pay dividends for decades. Before having a difficult conversation, remember you're choosing authentic connection over superficial peace. Before choosing healthy food, think about how good you'll feel in 2 hours instead of how restricted you feel right now. Conversely, make comfortable choices feel expensive in real time. Before hitting snooze, calculate how much energy you're trading for 10 more minutes of unconsciousness. Before ordering takeout again, consider the cumulative cost to your health and budget. Before avoiding that important phone call, think about how much mental energy you're spending on worry and procrastination. Before choosing entertainment over growth, remind yourself that comfortable choices compound into comfortable lives, which often means lives of quiet desperation. This mental shift makes discipline feel natural instead of forced. Because you're no longer fighting against your brain's reward system, you're redirecting it toward better targets. Your brain still seeks pleasure and avoids pain, but now the activities that actually serve your goals feel pleasurable, while the activities that sabotage your progress feel costly. You're not forcing yourself to do things you hate, you're training yourself to love things that help you grow. Here's the breakthrough that changes everything about goal achievement. Pain and pleasure aren't fixed experiences determined by external circumstances. They're subjective interpretations you can control with the right mental framework. The same workout can feel like punishment or like self-care, depending on how you frame it. The same study session can feel like boring obligation or exciting skill building, depending on your mental approach. The same difficult conversation can feel like awkward confrontation or valuable relationship investment, depending on your perspective. When you understand that your brain's interpretation of any experience is more important than the experience itself, you gain tremendous power over your own motivation. You stop waiting for activities to feel naturally rewarding and start making them feel rewarding through conscious reframing. This transforms discipline from something you force onto yourself into something that emerges naturally from how you think about your choices. But there's still one crucial element missing from this equation, because even with the right mindset, most people still try to change everything at once and wonder why they burn out before seeing results. The micro-win strategy that builds unstoppable momentum. The solution lies in understanding how your brain processes completion versus attempting. There's a psychological loophole that turns tiny actions into massive results, and most people miss it because they're too busy trying to move mountains when they should be moving pebbles. Your brain treats completing small tasks differently than attempting large ones, and understanding this difference unlocks a momentum system that becomes self-generating and practically unstoppable. The secret isn't in the size of the action, it's in the frequency of completion, because each micro-win triggers neurological rewards that make the next action easier than the last one. Starting small beats, starting strong every single time. But motivational culture has brainwashed everyone into believing that bigger goals create bigger results. The fitness industry sells transformation programs promising dramatic changes in 30 days. Business gurus preach about taking massive action and going all in from day one. Self-help books encourage readers to completely overhaul their entire lives starting Monday morning. This sounds inspiring until you realize that massive goals create massive resistance. and your brain treats overwhelming challenges like threats to be avoided rather than opportunities to be embraced. Watch the all-or-nothing mentality sabotage progress before it even begins, and you'll recognize the pattern in your own goal attempts. January 1st arrives and you decide to exercise for 90 minutes daily, eat perfectly clean, wake up at 5 every morning, read for 2 hours, and start a side business. Day 1 feels heroic, Day 2 feels manageable, Day 3 feels challenging, Day 4 feels impossible. Day 5, you're back to old patterns, wondering what went wrong. Your brain experienced the gap between current reality and ambitious goals, then voted for familiar comfort over overwhelming change. You tried to sprint a marathon distance and wondered why you collapsed before reaching the first mile marker. The psychology behind micro-wins reveals why small completions create success spirals that compound automatically. Every time you finish something, your brain releases dopamine, which reinforces the behavior and makes repetition more likely. But here's the crucial part. Your brain doesn't distinguish between completing a small task and completing a large task when it comes to dopamine release. Finishing a 10-minute walk triggers the same reward system as finishing a 2-hour workout. Making your bed creates the same completion satisfaction as organizing your entire house. Sending one important email generates the same accomplishment feeling as clearing your entire inbox. This biochemical quirk means you can hack your reward system by intentionally choosing ridiculously small goals that feel almost impossible to fail. Instead of exercising for an hour, commit to putting on workout shoes. Instead of writing a book, commit to writing 1 sentence. Instead of overhauling your diet, commit to drinking 1 extra glass of water. Instead of learning a new language, commit to studying 1 vocabulary word. These micro-commitments sound laughably easy, but they're psychologically brilliant because they guarantee daily wins that build momentum rather than daily failures that build resistance. Real examples of micro-wins leading to major transformations sound almost too simple to be true. But the compound effect makes small actions incredibly powerful over time. Steve decided to do 1 push-up every morning because he kept failing at elaborate workout routines. 1 push-up felt so easy that he usually did more once he started, but he only committed to 1. 6 months later, he was doing full workouts not because he forced himself, but because daily movement had become part of his identity. Maria committed to reading 1 page per day instead of trying to finish entire books. The single page often turned into chapters, but the low commitment removed all pressure. 2 years later, she had completed more books than ever before in her life. Breaking any goal down into micro-wins requires thinking smaller than feels meaningful, then going even smaller than that. Want to start exercising regularly? Commit to changing into workout clothes daily. Want to eat healthier? Commit to adding 1 vegetable to any meal. Want to save money? Commit to checking your bank balance every morning. Want to learn a skill? Commit to practicing for 2 minutes daily. Want to improve relationships? Commit to sending 1 appreciation text weekly. The actions feel almost trivial, but they establish patterns that naturally expand once momentum builds. Apply micro-wins to career goals by committing to 1 networking message weekly instead of attending every industry event. Apply them to relationship goals by scheduling 1 15-minute conversation monthly instead of planning elaborate date nights. Apply them to financial goals by saving the cost of 1 coffee purchase daily instead of dramatically cutting all discretionary spending. Apply them to learning goals by studying 1 concept thoroughly instead of trying to absorb entire subjects quickly. The specific goal matters less than the consistent completion pattern. These small wins create identity shifts that make bigger actions feel natural rather than forced. When you consistently complete micro-commitments, you start seeing yourself as someone who follows through on promises to yourself. This identity change happens gradually, but fundamentally alters how you approach future challenges. Instead of wondering whether you can stick to goals, you have evidence that you're the type of person who does what they say they'll do. The micro-wins become proof of your reliability, which makes larger commitments feel achievable rather than intimidating. The compound effect turns tiny daily actions into massive yearly results through pure mathematics. 1% improvement daily equals 37 times better over 1 year. Reading 1 page daily equals several books annually. Saving $5 daily equals nearly $2,000 yearly. Exercising 10 minutes daily equals over 60 hours of annual physical activity. Learning 1 fact daily equals 365 new pieces of knowledge yearly. The improvements feel insignificant day to day, but create dramatic transformations when viewed over longer time frames. Here's the breakthrough that changes everything about building discipline. Momentum is more valuable than motivation because it's self-generating and sustainable, rather than dependent on external circumstances or internal feelings. Motivation comes and goes with weather, sleep quality, and random life events. Momentum builds on itself and becomes stronger with each completed action regardless of how you feel. When you have momentum, taking action feels easier than stopping. When you lack momentum, starting feels harder than staying still. Micro wins create momentum by guaranteeing frequent completions that fuel the next action automatically. But even with perfect systems and unstoppable momentum, there's still one voice that can derail everything you've built. This voice determines whether you bounce back from inevitable
Becoming
setbacks
your own success
or
coach
use them as
instead of
evidence that
inner
you should
critic.
quit entirely. That voice running commentary on everything you do has 2 distinct options available: the critic and the coach. And whichever one you listen to shapes your entire relationship with goals, challenges, and personal growth. The critic speaks first and loudest, but the coach delivers better results when you learn to recognize the difference and consciously choose which voice gets to drive your decisions. Listen to how you talk to yourself versus how you talk to your friends. And the contrast reveals a shocking double standard that sabotages your progress daily. When your friend struggles with their diet, you say things like, "One bad meal doesn't ruin everything you're doing, great overall, just get back on track tomorrow." When you struggle with your diet, you say, "I have no willpower. I'm never going to lose weight. I might as well give up since I already messed up today." Your friend makes a mistake at work and you offer, "Everyone makes errors, you learned something valuable and you'll handle it better next time." You make a mistake at work and suddenly you're completely incompetent, always screwing things up, probably going to get fired. You would never dream of speaking to someone you cared about the way you casually speak to yourself throughout an average Tuesday. Let me tell you about Rachel, who struggled with the same fitness goal for 2 years because she couldn't stop beating herself up every time she missed a workout. Monday, she'd feel motivated and committed. Wednesday, she'd skip the gym because of work stress. Thursday, her internal critic would launch into a familiar speech about how she never follows through, lacks discipline, and should just accept being out of shape. By Friday, she'd convinced herself that starting over was pointless because she always quit anyway. This cycle repeated monthly until Rachel realized she was having the wrong conversation with herself entirely. Everything changed when Rachel started asking herself, "What would I tell my best friend in this situation?" instead of listening to her automatic self-criticism. Missing a workout became, "One missed session doesn't cancel out all your progress, you can get back to it tomorrow," instead of, "You're hopeless and will never be consistent." Having a bad eating day became, "Everyone has challenging days with food choices, tomorrow is a fresh start," instead of, "You have no self-control and might as well give up." Within 3 months, Rachel was consistently exercising, not because she stopped making mistakes, but because she stopped turning mistakes into evidence of personal failure. Self-compassion actually leads to higher standards and better performance than self-criticism ever could, because harsh internal dialogue creates the exact emotional conditions that make giving up feel logical and necessary. When you criticize yourself for setbacks, your brain experiences stress, shame, and defeat, which triggers the same protective mechanisms that make you want to avoid challenging situations entirely. Your nervous system can't distinguish between external criticism and internal criticism, so when you attack yourself for mistakes, your brain responds as if you're under actual threat. This stress response depletes mental energy, reduces decision-making ability, and makes comfort-seeking behaviors feel more appealing than goal-pursuing behaviors. The ridiculous things you say to yourself sound absolutely insane when you imagine saying them to someone else. You're such an idiot for forgetting that deadline, you'll probably never succeed at anything. Try saying that to your coworker and see how quickly HR gets involved. You look terrible today, everyone's gonna notice how awful you look. Imagine greeting your friend with that statement and watch the friendship end immediately. You're so lazy and pathetic for not wanting to exercise today. Picture telling your family member that during their recovery from illness and feel the cruelty of those words. Yet, you deliver these messages to yourself regularly without recognizing how destructive and unrealistic they sound. Reframing setbacks as data instead of evidence of personal failure requires treating mistakes like a scientist treats experimental results, rather than a judge treats criminal behavior. Scientists don't get emotionally attached to unexpected outcomes. They analyze what happened, extract useful information, and adjust their approach for better results next time. When an experiment doesn't work as planned, scientists ask, what did we learn from this? And how can we modify our approach? They don't conclude, we're terrible scientists who should quit science forever. This same objective curiosity transforms setbacks from personal attacks into valuable feedback that improves future performance. Specific language patterns for coaching yourself through difficult moments transform your internal dialogue from enemy to ally. Replace, I always mess up with, this was a tough moment, but I'm still in the fight. Change, I have no willpower to, I'm building my discipline muscle and it's getting stronger. Transform, I'll never be able to do this into, I haven't figured this out yet, but I'm learning. Switch, I'm terrible at this, for I'm still developing this skill. Convert, I should just give up, to tomorrow is a chance to try a different approach. These aren't just positive thinking exercises, they're strategic language choices that maintain emotional resilience during challenging periods. When temporary failures occur, coach yourself through them with the same patience you'd show someone you're mentoring. Okay, that didn't go as planned, let's figure out what happened and how to handle it differently next time. Instead of, I can't believe I did that again, I'm such a failure. When motivation disappears, remind yourself, motivation comes and goes, but I'm building systems that work regardless of how I feel. Instead of, I don't feel like doing this, so I must not really want it. When progress feels slow, acknowledge, small improvements compound over time, and I'm exactly where I need to be in this process. Instead of, I should be further along by now, everyone else is doing better than me. Building this internal coaching voice requires conscious practice, because self-criticism operates automatically, while self-compassion requires intentional effort. Start by noticing when your internal critic begins speaking, then pause and ask, what would I tell someone I care about in this exact situation? This simple question interrupts destructive thought patterns and activates your natural ability to be encouraging, supportive, and realistic. The more you practice switching from critic to coach, the more automatic this supportive voice becomes, until encouraging yourself feels as natural as encouraging others. This internal shift makes all the other techniques more effective and sustainable, because self-compassion creates emotional conditions that support consistent action rather than emotional conditions that trigger avoidance. When you treat yourself with kindness during setbacks, you maintain the psychological safety needed to keep trying. When you frame mistakes as learning opportunities rather than character flaws, you stay engaged with the process instead of abandoning it. When you coach yourself through challenges with patience and encouragement, you build resilience that carries you through future difficulties. But even with the perfect internal dialogue, there's still something working against you every single second of every day. The space around you is constantly influencing your choices in ways you never notice, and until you understand how to design that space properly, you'll keep fighting unnecessary battles that drain your willpower before you even begin. The environment design that makes discipline automatic. Your environment is casting votes for or against your goals every single second. And most of those votes happen without you even noticing. Every item you see, every app on your phone, every piece of furniture in your room is either making good choices easier or bad choices more tempting. The problem is we design our spaces like we're setting traps for our future selves, then wonder why we keep falling into them. Your willpower is finite, but your environment works 24/7, which means smart environment design beats strong willpower every time. Look around your living space right now and count how many things are voting against your goals versus how many are supporting them. The bag of chips sitting on your kitchen counter votes for poor eating choices. The remote control next to your bed votes for staying horizontal instead of getting up. The pile of laundry on your exercise bike votes for procrastination over productivity. The social media apps on your phone's home screen vote for distraction over focus. Meanwhile, the things that support your goals are probably buried in closets hidden in drawers or requiring multiple steps to access. We accidentally design our environments to make bad choices convenient and good choices complicated, then blame ourselves for lacking discipline. Think about how ridiculous this setup actually is. You want to eat healthier, but you keep cookies in the pantry at eye level and hide vegetables in the bottom drawer of the refrigerator. You want to exercise regularly, but your workout clothes are scattered in different rooms, while your comfortable pajamas are folded neatly in easy reach. You want to be more productive, but your desk faces a window with interesting views, while your important documents live in a filing cabinet across the room. You want to save money, but you keep your credit cards in your wallet, and your savings account requires logging in to multiple websites. It's like trying to quit smoking while carrying cigarettes in your pocket and wondering why you lack self-control. Environment design works by manipulating friction, which is basically how much effort something requires. Adding friction to bad habits makes them less likely to happen. Removing friction from good habits makes them more likely to happen. This isn't about complex psychology, it's about basic human laziness working in your favor. When healthy food requires less effort than junk food, you eat healthier. When exercise equipment is visible and accessible, you exercise more. When distractions require extra steps, you get distracted less. When productive tools are immediately available, you procrastinate less. The environment does the work, so your willpower doesn't have to. Here's how this plays out with specific changes that eliminated willpower battles entirely. Tom wanted to stop mindlessly scrolling social media, so he deleted the apps from his phone and logged out of all accounts on his computer. Now, checking social media requires typing URLs manually, entering passwords, and waiting for pages to load. The extra friction reduced his usage by 80% without any internal struggle or guilt. Sarah wanted to drink more water, so she bought 5 water bottles and placed them around her house, one by her bed, one at her desk, one in her car, one in her kitchen, and one by her front door. Drinking water became easier than not drinking water because hydration was always within arm's reach. Remove friction from good habits by making them ridiculously easy to start. Want to exercise regularly? Sleep in your workout clothes or lay them out the night before. Want to eat healthier? Wash and cut vegetables immediately after grocery shopping, then store them at eye level in clear containers. Want to read more? Place books in every room where you might have downtime and download reading apps on your phone. Want to save money? Set up automatic transfers to savings accounts and remove shopping apps from easy access. The goal is making good choices require less thought and effort than bad choices. Add friction to bad habits by creating barriers between you and tempting behaviors. Want to reduce online shopping? Remove saved credit card information from websites and delete shopping apps. Want to watch less television? Unplug the TV after each use and store the remote in another room. Want to eat less junk food? Keep unhealthy snacks in inconvenient locations that require effort to reach. Want to reduce phone distractions? Charge your device in a different room overnight and use a traditional alarm clock. Want to avoid procrastination? Block distracting websites during work hours and turn off non-essential notifications. Digital environment design matters as much as physical space design because your devices influence behavior constantly throughout each day. Organize your phone so productive apps live on the home screen and distracting apps require swiping to additional pages. Set up your computer desktop with shortcuts to important projects and tools you use regularly. Configure email filters that sort messages automatically, reducing decision fatigue about what deserves attention. Use website blockers during focused work periods, and schedule specific times for consuming entertainment or social media content. The approach works even when motivation disappears completely, because environmental systems operate independently of how you feel. Your prearranged workout clothes don't care whether you feel energetic. Your prepared healthy meals don't require inspiration to be nutritious. Your organized workspace doesn't need your permission to stay organized. Your automated savings transfers don't wait for you to feel financially responsible. The environment keeps supporting your goals regardless of your emotional state, mood, energy level, or current circumstances. Environment design creates a forcing mechanism that makes discipline feel effortless, because you're not fighting against your surroundings anymore. When your environment aligns with your goals, every choice becomes easier because you're swimming downstream instead of upstream. You stop relying on internal strength to overcome external obstacles and start using external design to support internal success. But even the perfect environment can't guarantee you'll follow through when nobody's watching, and the temptation to slack off feels stronger than your commitment to change. The accountability system that actually works in 2025. The solution lies in creating systems where other people depend on your consistency, or where failure costs you something valuable. Most people treat accountability like posting workout selfies on social media, then wondering why they quit going to the gym 2 weeks later. They announce their goals to everyone they know, expecting public pressure to keep them motivated, but what actually happens is they get a dopamine hit from all the supportive comments, which tricks their brain into thinking they've already made progress. Traditional accountability fails because it focuses on looking committed rather than being committed, and there's a massive difference between the two that determines whether you actually follow through or just feel good about your intentions. Surface-level accountability sounds like telling your friends you're going to lose weight, posting about your new business idea on LinkedIn, announcing your reading challenge on Instagram, or sharing your fitness journey on TikTok. You get immediate validation, likes, comments, and encouragement, which feels amazing, but creates a psychological problem. Your brain experiences the social recognition as a reward for the goal itself, rather than a reward for the work required to achieve it. The announcement becomes the achievement, and the actual difficult daily actions feel less necessary because you already received positive feedback for your good intentions. Deep accountability operates completely differently because it creates real consequences for not following through, rather than just social embarrassment for giving up. Instead of telling people what you plan to do, you create systems where other people depend on your consistency, or where failure costs you something valuable. Real accountability means your workout buddy drives to your house every morning, and you owe them gas money if you don't show up. It means scheduling weekly progress calls with someone who will ask specific questions about your actions, not just your feelings. It means joining a group where your absence affects other people's experience, or investing money that you lose if you don't meet specific behavioral targets. Technology and social connections can create powerful consequences when used strategically rather than for validation seeking. Apps like StickK let you bet money on your goals and donate to causes you hate if you fail to follow through. Workout apps that charge your credit card when you miss scheduled sessions create financial pain for inconsistency. Online communities that require daily check-ins with photographic evidence make accountability automatic rather than optional. Video calls with accountability partners where you show your work rather than talk about your feelings create transparent progress tracking that's harder to fake than social media posts. Research shows that individuals who shared their goals with others and reported their progress weekly were 40% more likely to succeed than those who did not. But here's the crucial distinction. This success came from process-focused accountability, not outcome-focused announcements. When you tell people your goals without creating real consequences, you often satisfy the psychological need for recognition without requiring the actual work that deserves recognition. Your brain gets confused and thinks sharing plans equals making progress, which reduces the internal drive to take action because you've already received the social benefits you were seeking. Creating accountability that feels supportive rather than judgmental requires focusing on process rather than outcomes and choosing partners who understand the difference. Supportive accountability asks, "What actions did you take this week?" rather than, "Did you hit your target?" It celebrates consistency over perfection and treats setbacks as data rather than failures. Judgmental accountability creates shame around imperfect progress, which makes people want to hide struggles instead of addressing them. The goal is building a relationship where honesty about challenges feels safe and productive, rather than embarrassing and counterproductive. Modern accountability systems work with busy schedules and digital lifestyles by requiring minimal time investment while creating maximum commitment pressure. Weekly 15-minute video calls with one specific person who asks about predetermined metrics, daily photo submissions to private group chats that track behavioral consistency, automated systems that charge your account or donate your money when fitness trackers show insufficient activity, online communities that require brief daily check-ins with specific evidence of progress. These approaches acknowledge that people are busy but create enough friction to make following through easier than dealing with consequences. Finding the right accountability partners requires looking for people who are committed to their own growth, rather than people who just want to be encouraging without expecting anything in return. Effective partners understand that accountability means asking hard questions, not just offering unconditional support. They're willing to point out patterns of excuse-making without being harsh or judgmental. They have their own goals they're working on, so the relationship feels mutual rather than one-sided. They care more about your long-term success than your short-term comfort, which means they'll push you when you need pushing and support you when you need supporting. Setting up effective check-in systems means scheduling specific times for specific conversations about predetermined metrics that measure behavior rather than just feelings. Weekly calls where you report how many days you took planned actions regardless of how those actions felt. Monthly reviews where you analyze what worked, what didn't, and what needs adjustment going forward. Daily text messages with simple yes or no answers about whether you did what you committed to doing. Photo submissions that provide evidence of completed actions rather than just verbal reports that can be exaggerated or misremembered. External accountability bridges the gap between intention and action when internal motivation fails because it creates consequences that operate independently of how you feel. Your accountability partner expects to hear from you whether you feel motivated or not. Your automated systems charge your account whether you feel like working out or not. Your community members notice your absence whether you feel like participating or not. This external structure keeps you moving forward during periods when internal drive disappears completely, which is exactly when you need support most. But even the strongest accountability system can't compete with one powerful force that determines whether you'll sacrifice comfort today for something better tomorrow. The future self-visualization that actually motivates action. That force is your connection to the person you're becoming, and it determines whether you'll sacrifice comfort today for something better tomorrow. Close your eyes and imagine yourself 5 years from today, sitting in the exact same place, doing the exact same things, living the exact same life because you chose comfort over growth every single time a decision mattered. Feel the weight of that reality, the disappointment, the regret, the knowledge that you had countless opportunities to change but consistently chose the easy path instead. Now imagine the opposite version, 5 years of consistent action, daily discipline, and steady progress toward everything you claim to want. Feel the pride, the confidence, the deep satisfaction of becoming someone who follows through on promises to themselves. This mental exercise isn't just daydreaming, it's the most powerful forcing mechanism you can use because it makes future consequences feel immediate and personal rather than abstract and distant. Traditional visualization fails because most people imagine achieving their goals without considering the daily actions required to get there or the emotional cost of not taking those actions. They picture themselves crossing finish lines without sweating through training runs. They visualize successful businesses without working through countless frustrating problems. They imagine transformed bodies without experiencing the discomfort of changing eating habits and exercise routines. This outcome-focused dreaming actually reduces motivation because your brain mistakes imagining success for achieving success and gives you credit for work you haven't done yet. We treat our future selves like completely different people who somehow have magical powers we currently lack. You assume that future you will want to exercise even though present you hates working out. You believe future you will choose salads even though present you craves pizza. You expect future you to save money even though present you buys things impulsively. This psychological distance makes it easy to pile responsibilities onto someone who doesn't exist yet while avoiding accountability for choices you're making right now. The specific technique that actually works involves imagining both the regret of inaction and the pride of consistency in vivid emotional detail that makes future consequences feel real today. Start with the regret path. Picture yourself 1 year from now explaining to someone why you're still in the same situation you're trying to escape. Feel the frustration in your voice as you list the same excuses you've been using for months. See the disappointment in your own eyes when you realize another year passed without meaningful progress. Make this scenario so detailed and emotionally painful that avoiding it becomes more motivating than pursuing pleasure. Then switch to the pride path. Visualize yourself 1 year from now, describing the daily habits that transformed your life. Feel the quiet confidence that comes from proving to yourself that you follow through on commitments. See how differently people respond to you when you carry yourself like someone who gets things done. Imagine the compound effects of small daily actions that seemed insignificant at the time, but created massive changes over months. Picture specific moments when your discipline paid off in ways you didn't expect. Make this scenario so emotionally compelling that working toward it feels more rewarding than avoiding discomfort. Successful people use future self-connection to make difficult decisions feel obvious because they regularly communicate with the person they're becoming. They ask questions like, will the version of me who has achieved this goal be grateful I made this choice today? And what would the disciplined version of me do in this situation? And is this action moving me toward or away from who I want to become? These questions cut through emotional noise and short-term thinking because they force you to consider long-term consequences before making impulsive choices. Making your future self feel real requires specific visualization techniques that create emotional connection across time. Write detailed letters to yourself 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years from now, describing your current struggles and commitments. Include specific details about your daily routine, your relationships, your work, and your personal growth. Then write responses from those future versions back to present you, offering encouragement, perspective, and gratitude for the hard work you're doing today. This exercise makes future consequences feel personal because you're creating actual dialogue with the person you're becoming. Apply this visualization to overcome specific moments of resistance by making future consequences feel immediate when temptation strikes. Standing in front of the refrigerator reaching for junk food, picture how disappointed your healthier future self will feel about this choice. Lying in bed, hitting snooze instead of exercising, imagine your stronger future self wishing you had built better habits earlier. Avoiding a difficult conversation, picture your more confident future self being grateful you practiced courage when it felt uncomfortable. About to make an impulse purchase, visualize your financially secure future self appreciating your restraint today. Practice temporal bridging exercises that make distant outcomes feel closer to present decisions. When facing a choice between immediate gratification and long-term benefit, fast forward through the consequences of both options. If you choose the easy path, follow that timeline forward week by week, month by month, year by year, until you see where repeated easy choices lead. If you choose the difficult path, Trace that progression through the same time frame until you see how small sacrifices compound into major transformations. When this technique combines with all the previous strategies, you create a comprehensive system where identity shifts, micro wins, environmental design, accountability systems, and future self-connection work together to make discipline feel automatic. Each component reinforces the others until following through becomes easier than giving up. Connecting with your future self transforms discipline from sacrifice into investment because you're no longer depriving present you for abstract benefits. You're actively contributing to someone you care deeply about, who happens to be yourself. But there's something even more fundamental happening here that most people never realize about what forcing yourself actually means. This entire system reveals something profound about human potential and personal transformation. You're not trying to become a different person. You're trying to become who you already are underneath all the excuses and comfortable choices. The disciplined version of you already exists, buried under layers of rationalization and delayed decisions. Every technique we covered reveals the person you've always been capable of being. Pick one technique from this video and start using it today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when conditions feel perfect. Your goals are absolutely achievable, but only if you force yourself to start now, instead of waiting for motivation that never comes.